Good morning, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, members of the public, I'm Bolingrove Jones, and I'll be chairing this meeting of the Development Committee. The officers who will provide and present our reports are today on my left.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman. I am Philip Olson. I am the Assistant Director of Planning and Building Control at Norfolk. Good morning, members. Good morning, members of the public.
And to my right.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Noel Doran. I'm a solicitor and legal advisor to the committee this morning. Thank you.
And can the officers please introduce themselves, first of all, with Officer Watson.
I'm Darryl Watson. I'm one of the development management team leaders.
I'm
Rob.
I'm Rob Argyle, planning officer, development management.
Right. Can I ask the officers, please, to make sure that you're at full power, because you're very faint at the moment. Darryl, you tend to be quite muddied with the way that speech codes comes over. Is there any way we can deal with that?
Chairman, if I can just ask the officers to speak slowly, clearly, and at some reasonable volume, we will try that and see how that goes. So that will be our plan for today. Slowly and at some reasonable volume, if you don't mind, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Welcome to the members of the public who are listening in. And we have no registered speakers as far as I am aware today, but we do have written presentations. You know about the fire alarms, everyone. Don't panic, just get out quickly. And your mobile phones, will you all please make sure your mobile phones are on silent? And I don't think I need to mention anything else because you know the routine. Right, I'm going to go over to the agenda to receive apologies and substitutes, please, Linda. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. I meant to introduce Linda Young, who is our officer who deals with all the note taking and making sure that we keep to protocol, and to Matt, who is going to make sure that we don't go into a dark hole with the technology. I still can't get Matt's surname, Stemavsky something. No, sorry, well, there we go. I'm bad enough with my own name, but never mind anybody else's. So apologies, Linda.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We have apologies this morning from Councillor Fitch-Tillett with Councillor Rest as substitute, and from Councillor Holliday with Councillor Cushing as substitute. We also have apologies from Councillor Stockton and Councillor Varley. Neither of them were able to find substitutes. Thank you.
Thank you. As you all know, I always want substitutes on this committee, but I do know Councillor Stockton is away and he's had problems, and I've had spoken to Councillor Varley yesterday and he had problems in finding substitutes. So everybody must be on holiday. To go to item 3, the minutes. Have you all had a copy of the last minutes? Are there any corrections that need to be made? No? I'm not going to go through them because I just don't. If you have any corrections, speak up now or forever hold your peace. So can I ask for someone to approve? Councillor Pierce, second. Councillor Kershaw. Are we all in favour of approval? It's unanimous, I think, Linda. Items of urgent business, I pass over to Officer Rowson.
Chairman, thank you very much. Members, my apologies. The performance report that I promised on a monthly basis was a little late coming to you. We will take that as an urgent item of business, and that will be on the agenda at item 10 today. That was circulated to you at the start of this week. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The order of business will be as stand. So we will start with that's got me, Cromer, and then go on to Hovton. Any declarations of interest, pecuniary or non-pecuniary? I like to hear both. None? Nope. Okay. Then we go on to the order of business, and we go to item 7, which is Cromer, PF/21/1049, page 3, replacement windows and doors. And I believe Officer Watson is presenting the report. If you'd like to speak, Officer.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I hope you can hear me okay. As far as I know, everything is okay at this end. So I'll speak quite loudly if I can. It's application.
A minute, Darrell. Can anybody hear him? Bit muffled, but not too bad.
Okay, I'll try a bit louder then.
Okay.
Okay, it's application reference number PF/21/1049 relating to 15A Cliff Road, Cromer. It is page 3 on your agenda. The application is for replacement windows and external doors. The existing windows are single glazed with timber frames, and these will be replaced by double glazed windows with UPVC frames and flush casements. They would replicate the design of the original existing windows as far as practically possible. Some of the windows have been changed at some time previously. The Conservation and Design Office has no objections to the proposal. The applicant also suggests the proposal would improve the dwelling's energy efficiency. As can be seen on the site location plan on page 3 of the presentation, 15A Cliff Road is to the rear of number 15 and cannot be seen from Cliff Road itself. The main public views are from Prior Brank Orchard, which runs sort of around the side and rear, most of which is outside the conservation area, as can be seen on pages 7 and 8 of the presentation. The recommendation is for approval set out on page 5 of the agenda, and that's the end of my brief presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Have you finished, Darrell?
Yes, I've finished. Thank you, Chair.
Heavens. That was jolly quick. We all right with that? Everybody managed to follow that? Okay, right, thank you. We now go to the town report, and Mr. Tim Bartlett's sent around a written statement. Have you received that? Has everybody read this? I don't know. Do you want to just mention what he says? They're opposing, aren't they?
Chairman, the town council opposed. They've given a written statement. Members have seen the circulated statement that was circulated contemporaneously, I think, with the papers for the agenda. So I'm going to take it that unless members wish to ask any questions around those comments, that we will proceed then to the written statement from the applicant.
I think
Thank you, Chairman.
the main problem with this area is it's a conservation area. I think that was what was brought up. So there's no opposing statement, but there's a supporting statement from Miss Deborah Fitchett, written statement again. Have we all read this? The written statement supporting? Okay. Could you just summarize that? What does she say?
Again, Chairman, rather than summarising, I will take it as read that the members have taken on board the statement and will be open to any queries or questions that members of the committee want to raise around that statement.
Now, the local member, Councillor Spagnola, is not present. Has she submitted a report?
No report, Chairman.
You all know how I feel about that.
But,
If you call something in to council, you are expected to provide a report. Yes. Andres,
John, you've done it. You've done it. Go on.
come on, between the two of you.
You're
someone.
first. I'm Cromer, ain't I? Or is it the wrong patch?
I don't know. It's Cliff Road. Is it you?
No, it's just beyond me, isn't it?
Is it beyond you?
Yes, yes. I just went and had a look as well, just to make doubly sure.
Well, you can't speak. You can speak as a general member,
Yes, we'll
but not
skip
as,
that
not
one.
as the local
We'll skip
member.
that one.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I know you've already said it, but if we have a refusal from the whole of the town council, somebody from there should have been here. And I think it's also bad form that the person that brought this to committee is not here in person either. I know how you feel, and I feel exactly the same. We're here discussing we're here discussing a proposal, and we've got no personal point of view. And even from the member who brought this forward for adjudication, which is their right, they should be here to support it. Thank you.
I think I agree with you, but I know with the next one, the local member had no idea that this was coming up. It was only by a prompt from me because I'd been in conversation with him that he realised and he put in a late submission. So it may be that I don't know that this local member wasn't informed, but I still want it on record that I do not approve of this. People asking for things to be brought forward. It causes an awful lot of work for officers, and it's also for us. Anyway, let's pass on, and I'm going to members now. Has anybody a desire to? That's Councillor Boyle. Are you going to speak, Andreas?
Yes, I am
I'll
actually.
put you down. And you want to speak, Nigel? Yes, Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a question for Officer Watson, really. I noticed the property next door, or part of the property, is that double glazed or is that existing wood panel, wood frames as well? And my second part of the question, my question is, there's already existing UPVC doors and windows, a bit of a mismatch, and after looking at the design of the new windows and doors, they actually look a lot better than what's there and look quite in keeping. Thank you.
Darryl, can you answer that?
I don't know the answer to the first question. Sorry, Chair. No, yeah, I'm not sure if Councillor Boyle wants an answer to the second one, or he was just confirming his view on it. Perhaps can I clarify that, please?
I can't hear a thing.
Could we ask Chairman for the officer to speak slowly and clearly once more? And if you're unable to answer that or discern it, then I will answer the question, Chairman.
Okay, I'll try again. I don't know the answer to the councillor's first question. Sorry, Chair.
You don't know the answer to the first question?
No.
Right, Gerald, what was the first one?
And it's the property that's attached to it, is that double glazed or is that existing wooden frame as well? That was just a clarification I'd like to know. Because if they've already had the windows done and UPVC, you know. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I don't know. I heard the question, but I just don't know the answer. Thank you.
Is that okay, Gerard? I mean.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Now, Councillor Yassimi.
Yes, thank you for this excellent report. Councillor Boyle has actually said what I was going to say, so I'm not going to repeat that and waste time. But can I add something else? And I actually went to visit to make sure to clear my mind on this topic very thoroughly. The other thing that jumps to mind is the human rights implications here. It is considered that the proposed development may raise issues relevant to Article 8, the respect of private family life. That's very important. And it says here, the officer didn't find anything wrong with it. So I would urge people to go with officer's recommendation on this and approve it. I'm proposing it, yes.
Were you aware of a difference in the framing between the main house and this section?
No, it's
Just looks the same.
it's on there.
Yeah.
On the documents, but no,
No,
no.
okay.
It won't make any impact, as you know.
Right. Councillor Pierce, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I draw everybody to page 4, item 2, design and impact on the heritage asset. This building, as then exemplified by the photograph, does already contain some, as they put it, low quality UPVC windows and doors. We have a mismatch here. So if we look at it as conservation, what are we conserving? A mismatch? Where the wooden windows could fail in a few years' time. And also, according to the applicant, we've got low quality UPVC. So, you know, and the applicant is proposing to change the wood and some of the UPVC for a unified look and unified appearance, which I think to be perfectly exemplary. And then I draw everybody to the photographs on page 7 of the report. Now, the photographs there are quite a distance from the house, when you look at the site, etc., Prior Bank Orchard, and also looking at the one on page 8. So it's not as if they're sticking onto a main street. So what difference is anybody going to find unless they walk up to the drive? I understand it's a conservation area, but I think that this is the most sensible application in order to improve a house for a family, to make it unified, which is then a far better case of preservation. So I second the proposal. I fully support the officers on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pierce. You're seconding. Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's worth pointing out that in these times of fuel poverty, that the sensible owner application to increase the insulation of this house, I think care has been taken with the design of the windows. I can see no reason to object.
Councillor Lloyd.
Much of what I've said has been repeated here already, but I just will say, possibly a little bit controversially, I'm just surprised that we're all here today to discuss this, to be quite frank with you. But I'll leave it there. Everything's been said already.
Yes, well, that's something else, isn't it? Councillor Lloyd. I mean, I must say, when looking at this and when discussing this with my vice chair and Officer Rowson, and with esteemed solicitor here, Noel, we were saying that as the years go by, these UPVC facilities are getting better and better and better and looking more and more in keeping with the properties. I'm not saying grade 2 listed, etc., which my daughter lives in, which is an absolute nightmare because that really is tied down. But situations like this, I feel this is a much better proposition. So if we could just, that's just my personal view. I don't wish to sway you. You have to now vote. Yes, Officer Rowson.
Speak at briefing, and there was a short address that you requested from the council's solicitor.
Oh, yes, I did. I'm so sorry, Mel. I beg your pardon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to remind members, this isn't a conservation area, so the List of Buildings and Conservation Areas Act requires you to pay special attention to the desirability of preserving or enhancing the character or appearance of the conservation area. And that's where the statutory presumption in favour of preservation or enhancement applies, so as to slew the planning balance. The starting point isn't even, it's swayed towards preservation and enhancement of the character and appearance of the conservation area. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. So the recommendation on page 5 is approval subject to the conditions listed. And we now will go to a vote. Are we going to roll call, please? Yeah. So it's approve, for, against, or abstain. Linda will read out our names.
Thank you, Chair. I'll read your names in alphabetical order. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cushing.
For.
Councillor Fisher.
For.
Councillor Grove-Jones.
For.
Councillor Heinrich.
For.
Councillor Kershaw.
For.
Councillor Lloyd,
4.
Councillor Mancini Boyle,
4.
Councillor Pierce,
4.
Councillor Rest, Councillor Withington,
4.
and Councillor Yassimi.
4.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you, everyone. Yes. Yeah, push, because this is the second one.
Chairman, through your discretion, it would be helpful, I think, to address members of the Development Committee on the issue of Cromer's conservation area and replacement windows. This is the second item that the Town Council have referred to this committee, and I'm aware of some significant disquiet at the Town Council about the preservation of the character and integrity of historic assets within Cromer's conservation area. I think it's appropriate to broaden out a discussion with the Town Council about potential Article 4s within the conservation area that may be able to offer support and to be able to give greater controls over replacement windows where they are appropriate. I do know, Chairman, that in many conservation areas, because conservation areas are blanket designation, there will be buildings that have been altered substantially. There will be buildings which are of a contemporary design. There will be buildings that will require replacement windows and careful consideration. The difficulty we have at the moment is that there is no substantive Article 4 in place that considers those replacement windows in the Cromer Town Centre in that conservation area. And I believe, Chairman, that it's important that as officers, through you as Chairman of this committee and through the portfolio holder, that we also work with the working party under Councillor Brown's chairmanship to discuss whether or not we can take forward an Article 4 and help to build some bridges with the Cromer Town Council, who quite rightly want to protect the heritage of our important town centres. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Yes, and I fully agree. We don't want to alienate the Town Council. They are very, very keen on preserving the heritage of Cromer. So let's see what we can do. Andrew, with the working party. All right, are we ready to pass on? Pleasure. We now go to page 7, our second application, Hovton, Pierce/20/1811, construction of a 3-bay carport. And I will now pass to the officer, Robert Argyle. Rob, are you there? Yeah.
I'm here. Thank you, Madam Chair. The application seeks a 3-bay cart shed for use as a home office. Following a reduction in size from the previous refusal, as detailed under the report PF 20-1171, it has been reduced in size, and such the ridge height has been reduced to 5.5 metres, which is less than a metre of the neighbouring brick-built garage at 4.75 metres. The building will be used as a home office with 3 parking spaces below. There will be 1 window on the first floor and 2 roof lights. The window at the first floor will have some facing the neighbour, but will be obscured glazing, so it raises no amenity concerns. The size and the scale of the proposal are considered to be acceptable. Whilst the building is large, the site of the building could support this size without detriment to the character of the area. No objections have been raised by the landscape officer following a submission of a tree protection plan for the 2 oaks to the front of the property, which provides screening, and a replacement screening of hedging has been planted as seen on page 14 of the presentation. If recommended for approval, it will be restricted to ancillary use of the main dwelling, as well as the conditions listed on page 4 of the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Now, and again, no town or parish council reports, no opposer, no supporting. But we do have a late submission from the local member, Councillor Dixon. Have you all seen the, no, now, do you wish esteemed officer to read it out to us. Yes, okay, off we go then.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. This comment was received yesterday afternoon from Councillor Nigel Dixon. Councillor Dixon notes the previous reason for refusal in his commentary to us. I'll read that to you verbatim. The proposed development would result in an inappropriate form of residential development due to its size, scale and massing within the front garden of Home Wood, with the potential for overlooking into the neighbour property. The proposal would result in an unsympathetic and dominant form of development and would fail to preserve or enhance the form and character of the area, and would have a significant detrimental impact upon the appearance of the street scene, as well as leading to overlooking and loss of privacy to the neighbouring property. The proposal therefore fails to comply with policy EN4 of the adopted North Norfolk core strategy. Members, that is a verbatim quote of the historic refusal with planning permission that this application tries to address. Councillor Dixon then goes on to say, the enclosure of the staircase and other minor changes to the dimensions aimed at making the application acceptable seem to have confused or convinced planning officers to extend that the above rejection reasons no longer apply. However, we can use two objective measures of size and scale and massing of the impact of this building. They are its volume and its gabled end surface area facing to the road. Using the dimensions available on the website, the volume of the proposed building is 12.6% less than the refused building. The gable end of the proposed building is 13.5% less than the refused building. These reductions are marginal and fall well short of what is required to overcome the emphatically stated reasons for refusal given for the similar building. Please note, up to now, officers have been unwilling to share their volume calculations with me. I have thus been unable to verify their perceived volume reduction. This proposal would establish a first for properties along Tunstead Road in allowing residential accommodation above a garage, car lodge or carport in the front garden. There's a very strong local opposition against changing the character of the area in this way. Finally, the applicant has removed much of the vegetation that would have helped to shield the majority of the building from the roadside views, so that now that the building would be much more visible from the roadside. For those reasons, the building would be an inappropriate and out of character form of residential development because of its size, scale and massing, so easily visible from the roadside. It would also result in an unacceptable level of overlooking and privacy loss to neighbours. It thus fails to comply with policy EN4, and I ask you to refuse this application. There you are, Chairman. Those are the words of our ward councillor, Nigel Dixon.
Thank you, beautifully read out.
Humbled.
Thank you. Right, can we then go to members? Does anybody wish to speak on this one? Councillor Pierce.
First of all, through you, Madam Chairman, I thank you, Officer Olson, for reading that report. And it did put into my mind clarity into the report that we see in front of us. I think the loss of privacy is something that we really need to look at, whether it's perchance or possibly overlooking into next door's residency within the house or even within the garden. So I think that needs careful consideration. And secondly, heritage. Referring to the last one to this one, if I look at the plans and I look at the photographs, I take what Councillor Dixon has said, that it would radically alter the appearance down a street, which I know reasonably well, not living there, but I know often to a point, having been there a large number of times. It is, I hate to use the word select, but it is a unified appearance as you go down that road. And to put a garage stroke carport at the front of the building as it is, or the applicant proposes, would radically alter that heritage aspect of that area. And I then come to the next point, the mass downgrade of around 10 to 12%. I don't think is enough, merely by changing some staircases, etc., etc. It doesn't really fulfill what the refusal was last time round. I feel quite strongly on this because I love heritage. I love history. Whilst we can't save everything, I think in this area, and even looking at the photographs supplied, I think this would be a term, to borrow from somewhere else, a little bit too much. So therefore, I oppose the officer's recommendation at this stage. I'm not putting a proposal forward yet. I'll wait for other members to discuss. But my views are I will oppose this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I actually live in the area, so I'm sort of joint member. It's a pretty road. If you look at the one of the site locations, you'll see that they're quite well established and they're quite nicely set back. And I'm starting to get a bit fed up at looking at these things. They seem to be popping up everywhere, you know. My main concern with this one, really, had it not been for the fact that they wanted an office above, extending the roof line, I probably wouldn't have much of a problem with it, because it would probably be a lower roof line. And, you know, these triple garage things keep propping up all over the place. So I know there's a precedent for them. But I do think in this particular case, it ruins the area. It's going to make it look out of character, because that road itself is, some of those houses are like in the 50s, you know, they've never been touched or they've been slightly modified, but nothing radical has ever gone on in that road. So for that reason, I'm not happy about this one at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a small point of clarification, if I could, which either Philip might be able to answer for me. These, which Councillor Mancini Boyle said, we seem to be getting a lot of these cart sheds, carports, whatever we want to call them. What is the policy about fitting doors on them once they've been built?
Chairman, in many elements that may not need permission. It depends on the extent of the change that you're looking at on the building. The government are very keen to liberate planning controls for residential development of this type. So case law has evolved in accordance with the government's wishes in these areas. What you will find is if there is a significant change to the external appearance of the cart shed by doors, facades being added, which can be the case, then there will be a case that planning permission is required. It really is a matter of fact and degree. I wish, Councillor Rest, we had a clear policy which was an X or a tick. Unfortunately, there isn't. It's a matter of that extent of physical change when the doors or the amendments are made to the external appearance.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand that, and I take your point. My concern is the fact that, speaking from sort of history and looking around the area that we have, I know doors have been fitted to various ones. There's not a car, it's not behind it. It's being used for accommodation, be it the fact it can't be seen. I can't prove this, and I'm not prepared to name anything now. I don't think that's necessary. But I do think this is becoming more of a problem, is they build the cart shed and then they put the doors on. This site here could well be the same case. It's hidden enough, but it's just a thought that I accept the fact there is a clarification of this. And I agree with Councillor Mancini Boyle that if this didn't have the the next floor being developed onto this, it would make it slightly different. I'm just concerned about up and then down. Thank you.
If I can just, without wishing to enter into discussion or appear to be contradictory, the position with a building within the curtilage of a dwelling is that generally, if it is being used as ancillary accommodation to that main dwelling, then it may very well be that further planning permission is not required. If the building is being used in a way which creates a separate dwelling, then the case law is very clear. Certainly a further permission would be required and there would be issues surrounding that. What you have in this situation is a recommendation of the officer's proposal, which asks for this building to remain ancillary, i.e. that it is not to be used for separate living accommodation. There are no facilities within this building. It is a loft area which is opened to be for an office. So we have what we have on the table, members. You'll hear me say this so often. And if there are concerns about people stretching those bounds, then we have an enforcement team who will investigate those issues. Thank you, Chairman.
I now go to Councillor Withington.
Thank you. We've been discussing the roof heights and the building line. Can I just clarify, did Councillor Argyle say that this is now 1.4 metres lower than the adjacent similar garages? Or did I mishear that?
Yes, so the adjacent brick built garage is, I've got the measurement here, so that is 4.75 metres in height. This application is 5.5 metres in height, so it's less than a metre higher than the neighbour. I would like to share with the committee the volumes as calculated by the agent, because I feel they may be more exact. So the previous refusal was 297 metres cubed, and this application is 228 metres cubed, which is a reduction in 26%. And that's as calculated by the agent using their drawing software. But yes, the reduction of ridge height is less than a metre compared to the neighbouring property. Thank you.
Is that sufficient information? Councillor Lloyd?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with officers on this one. I think, for several reasons. I think it is well shielded, in actual fact, from the road and from other properties. I note that the property next door has significant size garage, looking at the photograph in front of us, in a similar sort of location with regards to the house. Interesting, I can't say it, statistics. You know, on one level you can say a 13% reduction, and on another we've just heard 26% reduction. So for me, I don't have a problem with this, and I'd be happy to propose it.
So, Councillor Lloyd is proposing approval. Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a similar point. Looking at the Acorns, they have a large brick built garage with a solid door. This application also has occluded glass in the windows that are over or potentially overlooking. I can't see a reason to reject this. I would happily second this application.
Councillor Kershaw is seconding approval. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am concerned, as other members have expressed already, that the height of this proposed cart shed is still, in my view, quite imposing. I'm not entirely sure that the objection on the previous application set out in paragraph 1 on page 7 is overcome by the scaling down of this structure by 26%. I think it's still imposing in height. I know point 2 regarding the tree protection has been satisfied, so that issue is perhaps no longer relevant. But I am concerned that the position that this is situated in is more consistent historically, I think, in the design of these properties as a garage. And clearly the office space in the loft to this cart shed is, as it were, a new style of development. Certainly not what was intended when the property was originally built. So I do have some sympathy with Councillor Dixon and his concerns. And therefore I am considering whether I should be supporting the officer or not. I'm slightly conflicted on how to proceed.
Thank you. Councillor Heinrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I can see where the objections are coming from and the reasons why. However, we do have a large garage next door, and this would appear to be a markedly better design than that in terms of relationship to the building. It is fairly well screened. The minor issue of overlooking is being dealt with by skirted glazing. It also enables a home office, and increasingly going to get demand for home office type structures, whether it's over a garage, over a cart shed style, or simply a modular building dropped into a back garden. And I'm sure Officer Rowston can explain some of the complexities of what would then require permission and what wouldn't, but we're going to have a lot of these. Taking the officer's report and the photographs, on balance, I have to support the application.
Thank you. I'd just like to, before we sum up, ask you to look at page 10. And as Councillor Heinrich has pointed out, if you look at paragraph 3, the use of the first floor of the building as an ancillary home office is considered acceptable, noting the increased use of home working since the pandemic. Also, paragraph 4, with the relationship with the garage next door. And also at the bottom, the last paragraph, trees, a tree protection plan has been submitted. So I just wanted to point those out before we go to a vote. Anything you wish to add? No, please.
No, just to endorse what Councillor Rowson said. Once a structure is within the curtilage of a dwelling, the entire planning unit is in residential use. So residential use can be made of that structure, which would include matters like storage, like games rooms, that sort of thing. So as a matter of law, that would not amount to development requiring planning permission.
So we have to look at this as it is presented to us. And I now ask you to look at the recommendation on page 11, which is for approval with the conditions. And the last condition, restricting the use of the building to ancillary accommodation to the main house. This building, I don't know, I wouldn't want to work in it because there's no lavatory. So there we go. So we go to a vote. The roll call, please, Linda.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'll read your names in alphabetical order. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cushing.
Against.
Councillor Fisher.
For.
Councillor Grove-Jones.
For.
Councillor Heinrich.
For.
Councillor Kershaw.
For.
Councillor Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Pierce.
Against.
Councillor Rest. Councillor Withington. Was that against? No, thank you. And Councillor Yassimi.
4.
That's 7 in favour and 5 against, so that's carried.
That's carried. Thank you very much. That concludes the applications. We now go to the next section, which is over to Officer Rowson for the appeals section.
Chairman, if we could take the item of urgent business, the performance of that item 10.
Is that next? Because I haven't looked at the front. Oh, you want to do that next, do you?
I think it would stand at item 10, Chairman.
You want to do that now before the appeals?
Just looking at my agenda.
We're at item 9, which is appeals. Do you want to do item 10 first? Or?
If that's possible.
Yeah, of course. We all right with that, everybody? You have a performance review. Okay. Is this coming up on screen?
No, Chairman, it's a written report for members. You'll recall that we reported in August, members, on the basis of considerations around performance for the major and non-major planning applications. And you'll recall concerns and considerations that were reported at that time. I am pleased to be able to report to you, members, that we are retaining a performance at 80% of all major applications either being agreed within time or within extensions of time. We spoke, you may recall, at the last meeting, members, with those applications largely requiring legal agreements, and that there is a general expectation that those applications may exceed their time period. That would be common within major decisions, most of them requiring those legal agreements. So we stand in the last month of one decision on a major application, and that was issued within the time limit agreed under an extension with the applicant. So in terms of non-major performance, members, you can probably recall there was a concern that we expressed at the last meeting about the numbers of decisions being issued and poor performance over Q6 and Q7 of our 2-year analysis. If you look at paragraph 3.4 of the report, members, you will see that those figures are detailed there. Reporting on Q8 at the moment, we have 196 decisions. 57 of those decisions have been within the 8-week period. We have requested 108 extensions of time and have achieved decisions on 99 of those extensions of time within that time period. We stand currently, members, at 80% of decisions across Q8 being within that time period. Our 2-year decision-making period stands at 78%. You can see, members, that that position has been stabilised, and I can tell you that in August we were in a situation where 86% of all decisions were made within time period or agreed extension. What I'm reporting to you, members, is a stabilisation and improvement of decision making across the non-major applications. And I'm seeing more of that as we've moved through September, and I will report in October as to the implications for September's performance and across that quarter, Q8, and our overall 2-year batting average. I am seeing, members, as I say, a situation where that position on non-majors is stable and improving. I've identified at paragraph 4.0 in the report influencing factors. We talk about capacity, software updates, illness, and consultation responses within that section. And you will see at the end of that section, there are a series of bullet points which talk about extensions of time period, monitoring capacity requirements, looking at proactive case management and case conferences with our officers, and development of enhanced performance management reports to assist improved performance. Also, we will be looking at business processes with our new director, and we'll be bringing forward a comprehensive package which we will then continue to report to Development Committee. Overall, members, I'm not in any way rosy-eyed about this position, but I can tell you that the position that I'm seeing is stabilised and improving. That's effectively my commentary. Thank you, Chairman. Questions from members?
Any questions, please? Yes, Councillor Boyle and then Councillor Cushing. And then Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Olson, for that report. My main concern, and I think I raised it with you after our last meeting, was customer service. Most of my emails I get, and I'm sure I can speak for all of us, are from our residents who are frankly frustrated with the interaction with our officers and themselves. Quite often they don't know what's going on. It's very difficult to get through to the planning department, and I just wanted to know what policies or any ideas you could put forward to improve that. Thank you.
I think, Chairman, the last time we spoke, that I emphasised the importance of officers contacting the applicant and their agent as soon as the first clear date is achieved, effectively the end of the consultation process. So that will update the applicant and agent as to that position. My difficulty is, members, you will know that we have many people who will make comments on applications. I'm currently dealing with 3 applications myself, so I can speak at first hand. My difficulty would be the problem of going to all of those interested parties on a proactive basis. I don't believe that we have the capacity to do that, Chairman. What I would suggest is we operate on the basis of a self-service process so that people raise those concerns directly with the case officer through the planning applications inbox, and that we pick up those issues. If people are not being answered, then there is clearly an issue of communication. And quite rightly, Chairman, I agree. I see issues of communication, and both the director and myself are pressing those issues with team leaders and the officers. I meet with the officers on a fortnightly basis in their team groups, and I will press that issue and I note the concerns.
Is that sufficient, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Olson. Yeah, and I've read the agenda item from yesterday, and I can see there's improvements on a monthly development meeting and such. I did suggest that as our officers are quite frankly swamped, it would maybe be advisable if we took on a young new planning officer and maybe ask them to check with the overworked officers and see if they could maybe have more communication purely with applicants to help the officers out, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. That would be a helpful idea. The position we're in at the moment is we've just gone through a recruitment process, and we have recruited 2 entry-level officers who will replace officers who have left the team in the early stages of their career with us, and certainly some forward-facing communication will be part of those officers' learning process. They will have a small caseload, but they will also be there to help answer emails and phone calls. And I'd also say, members, that our planning processing team, managed by Lorna Raven, also do that as well. I think there is a series of issues we need to address, and certainly I will look at the matter of capacity as the report suggests, and I will continue to report, and I'm grateful for ideas. Thank you.
Can I just
Thank you.
intersperse here? Is that all right, Gerald?
No, that's fine.
How many staff have we got, actual planning officers?
Chairman, we've got 2 teams of 6 within the development management group, and we've got 6 further officers within the major developments team. What we also have is a supporting plans processing unit as well. So we have very good levels of staffing at the moment, but clearly we have, as I reported previously, a significant influx of cases over the last 3 months through the summer period. We have more cases. So I will be assessing our level of cases per officer and how that position lies. Clearly, when we have to go through recruitment again, Chairman, then there is a period of time where we have to balance that recruitment out, and we do have an operation under relatively high caseloads at the moment.
I believe they're up to between 30 and 40, some of them, some of the cases, which is a heck of a lot of things to try and get through. Yes, the next person who wishes to speak is Councillor Cushing.
Madam Chairman. One or two questions, if I may. I notice on the major projects, you compare that with national statistics. When we look at the overall number of figures, there's no benchmarking against other authorities. I mean, do you do that? I note on you say the minimum level required is 70%, which seems to me extremely low. On what is the target that you're actually aiming for? And on a sort of related subject in terms of what you can do about it, about 3 weeks ago, Councillor Estart, Councillor Kershaw, Councillor Buttercup and I attended interviews for apprentices. And I think we got applications from just about every department in North Norfolk, the District Council, bar the planning department, which surprised me indeed. So why did your department actually not apply for any apprentices?
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, I believe that meeting relating to apprentices was attended by the Director of the Planning Service. And the Director, I understand, spoke to the meeting and said that the Planning Service does actually have apprentices within it already. So from our point of view, we operate on the basis of an existing apprenticeship through planning, and we have an apprentice within the team at this moment in time. What we find is that there are also apprenticeships within building control, and we support the apprenticeship program. But unfortunately, the apprenticeship program itself requires induction into planning courses at different times of the year. So our requirement to recruit for apprenticeships will actually come from existing reserves that planning and building control already hold. We have a single apprentice. We also have a proud record of 2 recent graduates of planning courses, which have gone through trainee posts, which are held within the planning team. Our project itself, in terms of growing the planning profession in North Norfolk, is fertile. It is productive. We are seeing officers come through that process. Robert Argyle has addressed you today. You will see that we need effectively graduates who will come through and then will obtain postgraduate qualifications in planning to then go on to a professional career. We are also taking apprenticeships and developing those apprenticeships. The problem that we have in planning with apprenticeships is our nearest course for apprenticeships is many, many miles away. And distance learning is not well established for apprenticeships in planning and building control currently. We're working on that with other authorities in our area, but we do have some difficulties with apprenticeships, but we have, as I say, 2 existing apprenticeships within the team. So if there are any more questions on apprenticeships, or if Councillor Cushing wishes to come back, I'll take that as a part answer and then I'll move on to the major application.
Well, I do know that one of the other areas that were applying for apprenticeships, they had to obviously go on a training course, and I think the nearest one, I think it was from the county area, and I think the nearest course was somewhere down London way, but that didn't seem to put a bar on them applying for the apprentice. So there must be ways around that, I would have thought.
Thank you.
Well, as I say, Chairman, we have 2 apprenticeships, one in planning and one in building control. So the issue is the distance away. And my point is that we would like to promote closer learning, both for trainees and apprenticeships. We don't have planning schools in the east of England apart from Colchester. So we need to try to make sure that as a profession, we grow those institutions in this area. We have good learning establishments. We want to extend our connections into those establishments.
Is that okay, Chris? I agree with you. I think if we could get a learning situation going here, we seem to be starved of these facilities. It would be excellent, not just for North Norfolk, but for Suffolk, Cambridge, Norfolk, Lincolnshire. It would be really good. We did have the building school, didn't we? Construction school at some point in, I think it was towards the west of the county. And that was closed down, I believe, which I think was dreadful because that was the only facility in this whole area. Anyway, Councillor Pierce, Nigel. Sorry?
through you, Chairman, there was a subsidiary
Oh,
question
sorry,
at
Chris, I
the
thought you-
preface from Councillor Cushing.
Yeah.
I think there were only two. So let's talk about major projects. The key performance indicator is that national position, and the actual 2-year average for major development consideration is actually 60% for majors and 70% for non-majors. I agree. I think that's low. What are we aiming for? You want to be north of 90%. That's where we're looking to be. I think the report in some of them may say that, although I will make sure that's clarified in our next report to the Development Committee. I believe that with major projects, this is a difficult and volatile performance indicator because we don't have many major projects coming through North Norfolk. We are in a situation where we are preparing reports, completing legal agreements and drawing those decisions together. I am pressing those officers to make sure that we are keeping in touch with our customers and making certain that we have agreed extensions of time for our major developments. It would be sorely disappointing for me, having seen the efforts that officers and our partners are putting into these processes, to see decisions made after careful negotiation, legal agreements signed, and those decisions not counting positively towards the district council's performance. The major application is a very different beast to the non-major application. It requires significant partnership working, notification of our partners and our local communities. So from my point of view, I can certainly point towards Fakenham, and I can tell you, members, that the Fakenham case for the for Jesus College is due to have its section 106 completed within the next 10 to 14 days. So that would be an example of why major developments take a little longer. I hope that's answered the question on majors, but I'm probably opening a can of worms. And I hope that,
No, I have, my issue is really not around the majors, it's really around, and I appreciate that, but there's a lot of issues which need to be dealt with. And I know on the fake, I was speaking to Jeff Lyon last week, that she explained some of the complications on that, so that's fine. It's really around the non-major ones, or the minor ones, or whatever term you use for them. Your bay window extensions, etc., which I suspect is more the bread and butter of what you get through. That looks somewhat low to me in terms of set. If we're saying 80%, would be a minimum 70%. Well, that means potentially 30% of our customers are going to be aggravated that they're not getting their applications done on time.
Chairman, I would agree entirely. We will strive for north of 90% for both application types, and we will continue to report back to you how we're progressing. As I say, through August, we achieved 86% with the new measures that have been put in place. We have further measures that will be brought forward, and I will continue to report to you on how that is. I note your support on the matter of capacity, which is warmly welcomed by me, and I'm sure all of our officers are working through this difficult time.
Chris, is that okay? Thank you. Nigel.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Officer Olson through Chairman, Chair Lady, sorry. Thank you for this report. I noticed the greater depth on this report than the last meeting, which is a process of learning and understanding. Also being very frank with the issues that you are facing. This isn't as a political invite. This is caring for what you're doing so that we here can have a better service to improve what we're doing. And I think a lot of what you said, it will bear itself out in the next item, because when I get the agendas, I dread looking at the appeals section, because most of them are non-major, and it seems that either we're getting it wrong at committee here, because everyone usually wants to appeal, and there are items here that obviously have been dealt with through delegated authority, and it still comes up with a representation or an appeal. It seems that nobody wants to be told that they cannot, that they can't have anything. And that must be an unenviable problem for you and your staff, because you put something to one side after doing it, and bang, back it comes again, and this pile gets bigger and the completed pile gets smaller again. It's not a laugh, it's a very sensible, it's a very serious situation. All I can say is I thank you for your honesty. I thank you for being, may I say, quite brutal in opening up this proposed can of worms. The figures, as you say, you want to be north of 90. You know, a major application could take an awful long time, but a minor application could keep bouncing back. And I just want to say, I do understand where you're coming from. If we can give any ideas, and I know your openness to it, I'm sure they will be coming forward. I'm not going to talk on the appeals section here because that'll come up. There are a couple of questions, but what I'd like you to say is from this side, from me personally, I'm sure for most of the members here, we fully understand what you're saying, and we hope that you can get it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, it's important to remember, members, in this report, maybe I've not talked about it enough, and I won't talk about this much longer because we all have places to be, but you will see at 3.5 and 3.6 in this report that we talk about the qualitative measures. So it's not just speed, it is quality that councils are assessed on. Our appeal record remains extremely strong. We're looking at 2.27% of major applications being overturned. That's a single case in 2 years. It's pretty damn good, in my view, excuse the language. And then we're looking at non-major appeals, and we stand at 0.55% of appeals going against members' and officers' recommendations. So I think we can proudly say that we have an extraordinarily strong quality of decision-making. Our area of focus needs to be improving that speed, particularly in the non-major area. Thank you.
I think, Nigel, that is absolutely correct, that it is the speed that we deal with the non-majors. And of course, there has been a tremendous increase in people putting through applications. And also, don't forget that if somebody gets their application turned down, they are allowed to appeal as and when they wish. I have a case in point in my ward where their application was refused in July, and in August, within 2 to 3 weeks, they'd slapped in another application. So people don't like to be told that they can't do what they want to do, even though it's against planning. So there we are, and our officers have to try and deal with this. Sometimes it's important to just explain, and I know that the officers do, and so does Philip, to applicants that they are entitled to appeal, but the chances are that in reality that they will be refused again. And I think that's important because it saves an awful lot of aggro and on their part and an awful lot of work on ours, just to have a sense of timing and, well, to be sensible. Yes, Nigel, you wanted to
I was just going to say, Madam Chairman, I understand that. What I was trying to say, maybe, I don't think it was misinterpreted, is the fact that we understand, and the fact that people will appeal, and it does everything. Increases your workload, increases the pressure, increases it, you know, so we are aware of that. And I'm still saying, I thank Mr. Olson for being quite brutal and open this morning. It's not easy. And I did say that at the end of my last question, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Nigel. Andrew, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Olson for his report and for the candour in its content. I just wanted to raise the issue of historical non-major applications. I think most of the members here will perhaps have instances in their ward of applications which are probably over 12 months old before a decision is reached. Now, I know that the pressure of the influx of new matters is considerable and to some extent may have a priority, but I'd just like to know if there are any measures proposed or any changes in practice within the department to concentrate on the historical cases, the legacy cases, if I can term them as such, with a view to determining long-running non-major applications. A bit of good housekeeping, if you like.
I can tell you, members, that the government have introduced a planning guarantee some little time ago. And the planning guarantee was that we should be determining the vast majority of applications within 26 weeks, major, non-major applications. The legislation stands currently that if no extension of time is agreed within that 26-week period, that an applicant is entitled to its fee to be returned. In the vast majority of cases, I am finding that there are extensions of time agreed. In those historic cases, you've seen one today, a 2020 case reported to you for Houghton. That case was one which required the officers to negotiate to deliver an alternative solution. Members have voted today, the case has been approved. That's avoided an appeal, further resubmissions, etc., etc. I know that that was a difficult decision for this committee. I think in microcosm that probably describes some of the difficulties with our older applications. They require some careful thought. There are ideas and thoughts that members of the public and the applicants have that surround these more controversial applications. It doesn't need to be 900 houses at Fakenham to be a controversial application. We saw that today at Houghton. I believe that what will be helpful, Chairman, would be if we can maybe include a short detail for members on all cases that are in excess of 1 year. And we can then tell you how many cases we hold and what we are planning to do around progressing those cases. I would reassure you, members, that my expectation from officers is that any case over 26 weeks is agreed under an extension of time and is subject to negotiations. I can talk with you, Councillor Brown, about the myriad of discussions we have and how quickly others might come back to us and the complexities involved. We're working in a partnership with others, so sometimes that's why these matters do take a little longer.
Yes, that's fine. I just hope that that the department can give the attention that these historical applications deserve in bringing them to fruition as soon as possible. I don't know whether it's possible to have team meetings where everybody brings historical applications to a meeting and there's a sort of a corporate approach to dealing with some of them.
I know the extension of time has been controversial in some instances. And I do know within my own patch, we had to keep applying for extensions in time because there was a problem with the applicant ownership of land. All these sorts of things come into play here. So nothing is easy with planning, as you very well know. Anybody else wish to speak before we pass on to the appeals section? Yes, John.
Thank you. Just very quickly, and I appreciate your report. Would you say it was fair to say that some of the frustrations that you've incurred is because of the IT issues that have recently been introduced, and certainly for members to be able to log on and find the information? I particularly have this problem. As you know, I then send to you a screenshot what it's telling me. Is this part of the problem that you're incurring?
Thank you, Chairman. I think we talked a little about IT and software last time. I remember Councillor Brown saying, how long is this problem going to continue? It has been difficult, and I have to say that the transition from our last software package to the new one was managed very carefully by Sarah Ashurst, who worked with us and was very much respected for the work she put in that process. What we've encountered is, because it was such a step between moving from one system to the next, and I think that highlighted perhaps historic poor record keeping within the service and the paucity in terms of updating that software, the Accolade software, is we have made commitments to training, we've made commitments to upgrading and additional capacity being brought into the planning team. I've got a new post which is being created, which is a support manager's role. That support manager will take on the lead role for the development of the uniform software. They will manage the troubleshooting group. They will liaise closely with IDOCS and our IT team where there are issues with software. In short, Councillor Rest, yes, it would have been a better set of performance figures had we not had to grapple with the upgrading of that software, migrating across to a whole new series. I unreservedly say that's the case. However, did we have to do it? Yes, we certainly did. And had we not done it, we would have been in a situation where we would have been dealing with historic software which was not being updated and upgraded by the software provider. Difficult situation, and it's right that you report it to and you understand exactly where we stand.
Liz.
Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about capacity. I've sort of done a bit of drilling down on the figures, which you know, it's been really interesting actually to have those figures. So thank you for that. But it seems that there are certain times of the year when we have much higher capacity. And when I first looked, I thought, oh, it's because uniform came in at that time and backlog, etc. But actually, because you've taken us back over more than 1 year, that sort of October, December, January, March quarters, they are significantly higher in both years with not just having uniform. And they are significantly higher. We're receiving sort of 50% of workload over those periods. And we also have a high number of out of time applications in those periods as well as a result. So I just wonder whether any thoughts being given to sort of working practices, whether that can be looked at more thoroughly and whether there's a way of perhaps preempting that with working practices in some way. But I do think it needs looking at, because from a point of view of staff pressure as well, to suddenly have, you know, you're going to have 5 months of extreme pressure. Pot boiling comes to mind, and all the effect that has, and on as well as on our customers. So I do feel that does need to be looked at a little bit.
Thank you, Chairman. Absolutely, I would agree. The difficulty with planning application figures is we never know when we're going to see more applications. I think through COVID, we've seen an increase in smaller application types that have come in. You've seen more of them at this development committee, you know that. What we had through the end of 2020 into 21 was also a significant period of illness for 5 members of our team. You can't take 5 members out of that team, some of them being senior managers, and not have an impact on performance. That would have an impact on the capacity, and you can see that we average around about 300 decisions, non-majors, per quarter. That one is quite clear, quite cyclical, and I believe that we can plan around that, and we can look at the numbers of decisions that are coming out and the number of applications coming in. This week, I've signed off 26 decisions. Of those 26 decisions, 11 of them have actually been road-going planning applications that all get reported to you here today. So what you're looking at there is 1975 applications reported to you. I can guarantee you that there's been substantively more work going through the system. One of the things that we look at in terms of capacity are informal inquiries, non-material amendments, conditional discharges, etc., etc. And we will review how we can manage that additional burden that isn't reported to you here, because it doesn't count in terms of our performance statistics nationally. So I very much appreciate the point of capacity. Absolutely, we'll look at that, and we will manage how we manage with those other items that aren't actually reported to you.
Is that okay, Liz?
Yeah, I just would like some, I think there is possibly a pattern there for those months on other years as well, and it would be interesting to know if that is there or not.
I think it's important, as Philip has said, about COVID. It's interesting, isn't it? Because people were confined to their homes more than normal. So if you are confined to your home and you have to use your home as an office, this starts to kick in. And then you start to look around at your amenities, at your space, etc., etc. And that probably has had a fairly large influence on planning applications. And it will continue. We're going into another hard winter. with the prospect of another lockdown. So possibly we need to plan ahead as much as we can, Philip. But it is sickness with staff who get stressed with the amount of work as well as anything else. So sometimes there's an immutable point at which we just can't overcome unless we bring in consultants, which we have done in the past, but that is not an easy way to go, because sometimes the consultants get so involved in a case and then a period of time with this finishes and the case has to go on to someone else, another officer, which causes, I can tell you, sometimes quite an immense upset for applicants. Sorry to go on about that, but I think it is important. Yes, Paul.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. It's just a comment on some of the operating procedures that seem to miss things out every so often. We have an application in my ward, which my colleague is dealing with, where additional information has been required, but it hasn't been requested at an early stage. And months after the application is sitting there, an officer has come back and asked them for some quite complex information on prior land use. That is information that could have been put together months ago. And I hope it is the only one, but I'm sure there must be others in other wards. Could I ask that where an application is initially assessed and additional information required, that the applicant is made aware of that at a very early stage? I'm sure if that could happen, it would resolve some of the delays, especially where information is complex and will take some time for the applicant to acquire. Thank you.
I would say, Chairman, that there are a disappointingly high number of applications returned as being invalid at the early start of our processes. There are many different reasons for that, but one of them is certainly there are complexities around the submission of applications. Very familiar with the case that Councillor Heinrich talks about, and in that particular case, absolutely, certainly, we could have returned at an earlier stage and asked for more information about the historic land use on that site. However, this is a partnership. As I say, we talk about partnerships. There is a requirement for us to make sure that developer and agents are also playing their part in this process. So the submission of the certificate of lawfulness application will require significant levels of evidence to be submitted. It's not unusual for affidavit evidence to be submitted under a certificate of lawfulness. I believe that those could have been asked for at an early stage in that case. But rather than talking about individual cases, I would say to you that I would return back to that first point of contact. All consultations are clear that our case officers should be returning to agents and applicants and telling them what is needed. That would be at around about 3 to 4 weeks into the process. We have to focus on that and understand where that hasn't happened. Why is that? Are there capacity issues? Are there other problems? What is the issue there? Why are customers not being updated at that first clear date? So for me, that's a pivotal point in the application process where our primary customer is the applicant and the agent, and we talk to them about when those decisions are likely to be made and what more information or what amendment could be made. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is that all right, Paul?
Yes, I'm glad to have those assurances. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, I'm one of these people who has to work to a set program. Sometimes to have just a step way going down from number one, all the situations which need to be covered, and having them ticked off and a date put beside them and possibly submitted to the head of that particular section might be an idea, because that does keep people on track, I think. Yes, Philip, is that okay? I mean, I'm only suggesting
we do
could talk
hold
about it.
we do hold regular
Yeah.
team meetings. The team leader's role is to coach those officers. They also have individual case conferences with those officers. Reports are available for the case officers' caseloads, and those can be prioritised within those case meetings. So there is a process there that we already have in place. For me, the key issue is a commitment to communicating on or around that first clear date when the consultation periods have expired. If, for example, there are consultations missing, and there's no reason why you can't go back and return to an applicant and say that those are consultations that you're chasing up and that you expect to be delivered and given a more comprehensive picture. At that stage, we can tell people what the timeline is. We can communicate as to what those issues are. For me, that's a clear point that we need to make sure we're addressing. Get in touch on or around that first clear date.
Can we pass on? Are we finished with this section now? Because we do have to go into the appeals. I knew I shouldn't have said this should have been a quick meeting. I do it every time. Right. Philip, when we have loads of appeals, so, you know, people are exercising their right, but we seem to be getting a lot more and more.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things that I will be working on is part of the business process is working with our director to see what measures we can undertake to reduce down the number of appeals that are made within the district, just to check that we're doing all that we can as a group of officers and a council to reduce down the number of appeals. What I did say, I think, Chairman, in the briefing session that we held on Tuesday is that processing of appeals at the planning inspectorate has slowed up a little. We are seeing that those processes have slowed down. I'm going to ask members if you have any questions to raise around new appeals, section A, our first item.
Yes.
Thank you. It's just a point of interest. There are two on there for Fakenham near the bottom, which are obviously related to the same thing. I'm just asking whether it would be possible to add the word internal after you've got existing. I think it makes it clearer that what they're actually looking for is an exterior staircase to replace an internal staircase. I know the full plan has it, but just in the briefing it doesn't. Could you do that, please?
Chairman, unfortunately, the description of an appeal is within the hands of the appellant. What we can do is we will talk with appellants when applications are received. And if we believe that there's a requirement to change a description, we will discuss that. But planning law is very clear. The description of development is a matter for the applicant. It's for them to decide. We can only change those descriptions with their blessing. Unfortunately, at an appeal stage, we can't do that.
Anybody else on this section? Yes, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wondered how many of those appeals actually had come to the Development Committee. Do you know that? Or just a curiosity.
I can't answer you specifically on the new applications. We aim for delegation which stands in excess of 90%. Most authorities achieve 92 to 95% delegation. So the vast majority of those won't have come to you as a development committee. There may have been some engagement with you as ward members, and you will see around about a fifth to a third of our applications go through a call-in process with you as ward members. Unfortunately, the process as we stand is one geared towards increasing levels of delegation. So for me, it's an issue of the officers communicating effectively with you as members on these applications.
That's fine. It's just interesting if these are particularly contentious. And I thought ideally the Development Committee is the forum for contentious applications. That's all. But anyway, out of curiosity, thank you.
I can tell you that not many of these appeals come to us. They are dealt with by delegated authority. The ones we tend to have are if they're large developments, as the original application, or there is a query about land uses, land ownership, this sort of thing. I think that's right, isn't it? We don't seem to have.
Chairman, we've got a call-in process within the Constitution. Assuming as seasoned members, you're all aware of that and how it works. So from that point of view, that call-in process is one that's not very much different to most other authorities that I've worked in. I would say to you that I believe there's pretty good engagement. You'll get a consultation on anything that falls into your patch. We have agreed on major applications. You'll see the pre-application engagement on those, and I believe on non-majors now as well. So if you're telling me there's a lack of engagement with members, that's something I'd like to pick up and understand. How many of these come to committee? Not many, is a short answer, Chris.
Right, have we finished with the new appeals section? Can we go on then, please, Philip?
Okay, so we will also then look at section B, inquiries and hearings. And amongst those, we have 3 cases. I can talk about Clynex C. I've updated local ward member on that case. We are currently, of course, waiting for the application that's seeking a remediation proposal to come to committee. I'm awaiting final revised plans. My aim will be report to you towards the end of October, but I'm still awaiting that set of drawings, so I will keep you updated. And as development committee members, you will certainly see the remediation application. Clearly, the appeal can't progress until that appeal is heard, until the application has been heard. At Great Ryborough, we have a date for the enforcement hearing, and that will be taken forward, and members for that patch will be updated of when that is occurring. That is an enforcement appeal against works that have been taken to extend and alter that property without planning permission. Any questions on those items?
Just one from me. Is there any time factor with regard to these contentious appeals? Is there a time at which they run out and no longer apply?
Once an appeal has been lodged, it must be heard unless it is withdrawn by the appellant. The position for determination of appeals, as I've alluded to, is that outside of the fast track process, the planning inspectorate are struggling to hit their time period requirements, particularly on enforcement appeals. As you can see at Arcady and also at Great Ryborough, those are 2 long-standing enforcement appeals. You'll recall the length of time it took to get a decision from the inspectorate on the archery and air rifle proposals at Kelling. Unfortunately, we have to work with the planning inspectorate, and unfortunately I can say to you that no matter how mature these appeals are, they still need to be heard, Chairman.
Thank you. I am concerned about that because the Clyde appeal is 2018, and it looks as if we may very well continue into 2022. So it was just suddenly, you know, it's occurred to me before. Surely there is a 5-year time, you know, they lapse, but there isn't. Is that so? Dear, oh dear. Right. Are we okay with that one? Okay, on then, Philip, C.
So, Chairman, section C, written representation appeals in hand. Chairman, these are obviously those simpler appeal processes where statements are exchanged. So any questions on those appeals under section?
Yes, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member for Corpus, that's all. I believe that at the bottom of the page, PU 200398 has been determined and that the appeal was refused. Is my understanding correct?
That is correct, Chairman, and I also have an update on the Skaton application 210461 at the foot of page 15. That application as a fast track householder has been determined and was dismissed. Unfortunately, Chairman, the inspectorate sometimes move in between the publication of the agenda and are reporting to you. But thank you very much, Councillor Brown, you're correct.
Anything about the Fakenham appeals, John? Is that all right? Everybody else okay?
Okay, Chairman, and that's section D, appeal decisions, results and summaries. I have to offer sincere apologies. The North Walsham case 20160 at land east of Bacton Road, North Walsham, was an appeal on a permission in principle. You might remember that one, members coming to committee. And I can confirm for you, members, that in fact that appeal was allowed. Permission has been granted. So we're in error on that case, and it should be reported as the appeal being allowed. I can also report on the Sheringham case, and you can see that that appeal was dismissed. So on the whole, members, positive decisions are being made. The permission in principle was a first case. We haven't determined one of those as an authority, and there will be learning points that we take forward.
On to section E, any court cases come through?
Nothing, Chair.
Right. You said that with a great deal of pleasure. We go on to item 11, exclusion of press and public. Well, there's no need for that. No private business, Linda? No. No exempt matters? No. Okay. So that finishes the official business. I will just point out to you that Officer Martin Fulcher, who is our new Director of Place and Domestic Change, was hoping to come to meet you all today and to just have a little word, but unfortunately he's been triple booked, I believe, is the term that Philip mentioned. So hopefully we will be seeing him next time at the planning committee. And I believe that for the chair of the working party, my vice chair and myself, we will try and have a Zoom meeting with Martin, possibly with John Toy as well.
Chairman, there was an attendance at the most recent portfolio holder meeting. I understand apologies were given by some who were unable to attend. We do have a meeting scheduled with the new director, with the working party chairman, and we will make sure that we have a meeting with you and vice chair of the development committee in the diary as soon as possible for Martin to attend. He's very keen to meet the committee, and he's very much a development committee man. So I'm sure you'll be very pleased with his appointment, and we all welcome him on board at that time. Thanks.
Thank you. That's the cessation of our meeting at nearly 10 past.